as the Sixers end up, Michael, with the number 1 overall pick. Does it matter that the Laker pick didn't convey? Was last night still a success?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it was still a big success. I think the main thing was that the Sixers needed to land a top 2 pick to make sure they got either Simmons or Ingram. They obviously did that with landing the top pick, and it might actually end up being a good thing that the Lakers pick didn't convey this year, because it still has the opportunity to convey next year or the year after it loses protection, and those drafts might be deeper than this year. So it could end up being a good thing, actually, also.
Yeah, and I think it was you that tweeted out that they entered the 2013 when Sam Hinkie was hired. They did not have a pick in last night's or this year's draft, right? This was all acquired over the last couple of years.
Yeah, they were heading into this draft when Hinkie took over the team with only their own second-round pick in this year's draft, and now obviously they're picking first overall due to the moves that he's made.
So 124-26. And what they currently have here, who's the better fit for you? Which way, number one, who's the better fit for you, Michael? And number two, which way do you believe the Sixers are leaning?
I mean, fit-wise, I've been leaning toward Ingram. Recently, I think he fits better with what the team has right now, and, the style of play that's prevalent in the league today with his ability to spread the floor and shoot the ball. With that being said, Simmons is obviously, a stud with a very high ceiling and tons of potential. So, you can't really go wrong either way. After the Combine, I heard from some sources, within the organization that the Sixers were really high on Brandon Ingram. They had an opportunity to interview him and talk to him at the Combine. And, they were really impressed. They, went over some NBA-level drills with him, just via discussion. And they really liked his intelligence along with his skill set. And then, of course, a report came out this morning from, Kevin Ding that said that the Sixers were leaning heavily towards Simmons. So, it's tough to tell exactly which way they're leaning at this point. I think you'll see a lot of conflicting reports over the next month. But, you really can't go wrong either way.
Well, at the beginning of this process, it was Simmons. He was, the LeBron James. He was the guy who was going to be a franchise changer. Can the Sixers afford not to take Simmons because of, the futility that they've had and all of the hype surrounding Simmons entering this process where he's still going to be the 1 or 2 pick regardless of whether, he goes number 1 or not. He's not going to go any further than 2. But can the Sixers afford not to take the guy who has that kind of potential?
Well, the backlash, if they passed on him and he ended up being a better prop player and a stud more so than Ingram, would obviously be huge. And I do think Simmons has the highest ceiling out of the two. I think he has the potential to be a better player. And, the Sixers aren't at that point yet where they can really technically should start drafting for fit. They're still in a position where they, should just really acquire the best available player as their roster really doesn't have a shape yet. So I do think that'll play heavily into their decision. So to answer your question, I would say no, they can't afford to miss on, a prospect like Simmons who's been tagged as the next LeBron James, and I think that'll weigh heavily into their decision.
I like your tweet at the Real Mike KB. The Sixers have a tough decision ahead of them, but a good tough decision like whether to eat pizza or wings. You can't lose either way. They would lose, though, if they took Ingram and Simmons turned out to be a transcendent type of player. That doesn't necessarily mean he is a LeBron James or even if a Kevin Durant level player, but this is what this was for, to try to find that guy. You tweeted also Joel Embiid was the consensus top pick in 2014 before his injury. And I think a lot of people, what gets lost in this whole 3-year process plan, whatever, was he hasn't played, but they're almost adding 2 off seasons into 1 off season by possibly getting Embiid and maybe Saric back. I'll get your opinion on that. But let me get your take on Embiid and what we've heard over the last 2 weeks or so. And then his tweet last night basically saying, hey, whoever we take, you got a Batman with you now because I'm coming with you. Are you starting to believe now that Embiid is more of a certainty than maybe a month ago?
I don't want to say certainty yet, just, out of superstition, but all signs are really pointing to the fact that it looks like he is, going to be ready to go at the start of the season and maybe even, as soon as Summer League in early July. the tweets from him saying that he's ready to go are definitely a good sign. He's never, quite been this assertive in the fact that he's, going to be good and be out there before. And, all the reports from Brett Brown said yesterday that they just got fantastic news on a, recent doctor report from Embiid. He's upping his, his workload in practice. He's playing more contact in his drills. So, all signs point to the fact that he's going to be good to go, in addition to, like you said, Saric. So it's basically like they're getting their picks from 2014 draft in addition to the first pick in the 2016 draft all at one time this summer.
All right, so the rumors are going to start. You're going to start to hear the speculation, Michael. Who's the guy that goes, the trade, what's going to happen? Do you think there will be a major move to come now that we know they have the number one pick? Because they have indicated that if they got the Laker pick, we'd be interested in moving that, but they didn't. But do you still feel there's a big move that is yet to be made?
Yeah, I do, absolutely. I don't think it's going to be the pick itself. I'd be very surprised if the number one pick was moved. I think we'll see a lot of reports coming out leading up to draft day with Okafor's name attached to them as, as the guy that will probably be shopped around considering a couple different factors, namely his contract. He's under team control for 3 more years at a very reasonable salary. And, his agent potential still, I think he will net the biggest return around the league. And I think there will be, a lot of suitors for him come, on draft night where, especially if the Sixers are going to take Simmons where, as some reports are saying, another forward, a move to get some guards, ball handling and shooting. In that scenario would be something that would be very likely.
Michael Kaskey Blomain's with us. Check out his stuff coming up at 97.3ESPN.com on the draft. He's working on a couple of pieces that will be up later on tonight as well. And, Michael, let me get your thought on free agency then. Because I said now that they actually know who they want to pick going into a draft, their plan should be a lot better than the last couple of years where I can't imagine they entered the draft last year thinking they were going to walk out with Okafor. That was probably not one of the highest probabilities for them. But now they know. What does that mean for free agency? And is there a guy or a spot that you think now that they know they have the first pick, they can really go target this guy or this position?
Yeah, well, it definitely makes it easier. This is the first summer and, since basically the process started that I expect them to, try to spend actual money rather than just, small patch pieces or taking on contracts. They have a lot of, upwards of $30 million plus in cap space this summer, and I think they will be actively looking to, use that on high caliber players. With that being said, I think one position that they really will need to address is the point guard position. If they had ended up with that Lakers pick, I think a lot of people suspected that they would have used that second pick on a point guard like a Chris Dunn or a Jamal Murray or someone along those lines. But since they didn't get that second pick and they're going to use the first pick, obviously on either Simmons or Ingram, considering what they already have on the roster, I think point guard is one position that they can really identify as somewhere that they should look to target in free agency and maybe spend some money on.
Michael, I think the underrated part about last night was something that gets overlooked is you mentioned that they didn't have a first-round pick coming into this year when Hinkie took over, but they also have multiple picks next year and the year after that. So once this team starts to kind of grow up a little bit, they're going to be able to keep adding talent, and that's really what this was about, a long-term ability to be a championship contender. Now, that doesn't mean all these players are going to hit. They could be bustaronis here. But they kept giving themselves more opportunities, and that, I think, is something that has been missed throughout the last 3 years.
It's absolutely been missed, and that's, kind of the greatness of Sam Hinkie that I think a lot of the fan base has realized. I was already seeing some articles this morning that said the process is, it's over now. We got the first pick. Well, the process isn't over. It's still, because of Sam, like you said, there's still going to be a pipeline of talent coming into the organization over the next couple of years. The Lakers pick didn't come over this year. But it's same thing next year. It's a top 3 protected pick. The Kings, we still have a pick swap with them, and they're basically in shambles. They have a great shot to wind up in the lottery again next year. So we have our own first round pick next year and the year after. There's still a lot of talent through the draft that's going to be coming in addition to what we already have on the roster, thanks to the work that Hinkie did.
Somewhere Sam's smiling, right? I mean, so was there a story out there that the Sixers? Bryan Colangelo said he was going to send him a note?
Yeah, he was. I think it was a story from Zach Lowe on ESPN this morning from behind the scenes. He said, he was thinking about giving him a call prior to the selections, and then once the ping pong balls bounced in the Sixers' favor, he said that he was going to send him a nice note.
Well, I know somewhere Bryan Colangelo probably saying, Sam, thank you for making me one of the more popular guys in the city right now. He's Michael Kaskey Blomain at The Real Mike KB on Twitter. He'll have more on the draft up at 97.3ESPN.com. And as he said there, maybe the Sixers like Brandon Ingram. Michael will be checking out the website. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You got